She thought it was just another quiet morning walk home, until she saw something lying still on the road. What happened next changed her life in a way no one could have imagined. Stay tuned because you are about to watch a beautiful story and find out what happened next. Hello, family. Welcome to Tales Haven. I hope you find my story videos interesting and engaging. Kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel for more stories. Thank you as you do so. Sit back, relax as we dive into the story. The morning air in Willow Creek, Ohio, was cold and still. It was only 7:05 a.m., but Claire Morgan had already finished her shift at the local bakery. Her cheeks were dusted with flour, her hands smelled like cinnamon rolls, and her black sneakers were slightly wet from the puddles left by last night's rain. Claire wasn't rich. In fact, she could barely keep up with rent for her tiny one-bedroom apartment. But she was content with the little she had. She believed in kindness, hard work, and doing the right thing, even when no one was watching. As she turned onto Willow Street, her shortcut home, something unusual caught her eye. At first, it looked like a bundle of clothes lying near the sidewalk. But as she moved closer, her heart dropped. It was a man, face down, motionless, dressed in torn, expensive-looking clothes. Claire froze. 1,000 thoughts ran through her head. Was he drunk? Injured? Dead? She looked around. Cars drove past just a block away. But no one noticed. No one stopped. Quickly, she dropped her bag and ran toward him. "Sir," she called out, kneeling beside him. "Can you hear me?" No response. Claire's hands trembled as she touched his shoulder and gently shook him. His skin was cold. His lips were slightly cracked. A small cut on his forehead was still bleeding. She reached for her phone with shaky fingers and called 911. "Please, I need help," she said breathlessly. "There's a man unconscious on Willow Street, just past Parker Avenue. He's not moving. Please hurry." The dispatcher told her to stay calm and not move him. But Claire couldn't just sit there and do nothing. She took off her hoodie and gently covered his back to keep him warm. Then she moved his hand slightly so she could check for a pulse. He was alive. His breathing was shallow, but steady. She sighed in relief. As she sat there beside him, she noticed something strange, his watch. It was unlike anything she had ever seen. Silver, sleek, probably worth thousands of dollars. His shoes, though dirty, were handcrafted leather. His belt had a tiny gold emblem on the buckle. Everything about him said money. Yet here he was, unconscious and alone on a cold street. Claire watched over him for 10 more minutes until the sirens arrived. 2 paramedics jumped out of the ambulance and rushed over. "He's breathing," Claire told them quickly. "But he hasn't woken up." They carefully lifted the man onto a stretcher and carried him into the ambulance. Just before they closed the doors, one of the paramedics looked at her. "You probably saved his life," he said sincerely. Claire nodded slowly, still stunned. "Do you know who he is?" The paramedic shook his head. "No ID. No wallet. Nothing." She stood there on the wet sidewalk, watching the ambulance disappear down the street. It all happened so fast. She picked up her bag and walked home, her hands still cold. That night, Claire barely slept. She tossed and turned, replaying the morning in her mind. She couldn't stop thinking about the man she found. The way he looked, the way no one else stopped, the way the paramedic told her she probably saved his life. But who was he? The next morning, after her bakery shift, Claire made a decision. She grabbed her coat, tucked her curly hair into a messy bun, and walked to Willow Creek General Hospital. She didn't know exactly why she went. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was guilt. Or maybe it was the quiet voice in her heart that told her this wasn't over yet. At the hospital reception, she hesitated before asking, "Hi, I was the one who called 911 yesterday about the unconscious man on Willow Street. Is he okay?" The nurse at the desk glanced up with polite surprise. "You're the girl who found him?" Claire nodded. The nurse's expression softened. "You did a very brave thing. He's stable now. He woke up late last night, but what?" Claire leaned forward, heart quickening. The nurse lowered her voice. "He doesn't remember anything. No ID. No phone. No name. He said he doesn't even remember his own face in the mirror. Claire gasped. Memory loss? Looks like he has temporary amnesia, possibly from the head trauma. The doctor's running tests, but right now he's just a man with no past. Claire felt her chest tighten. The nurse leaned in slightly. He asked about the person who found him. When we said a young woman stayed with him until the ambulance came, he asked to see you. Claire hesitated. Her hands felt cold. Her thoughts raced. Would you like to see him? The nurse asked gently. Yes, Claire whispered. She followed the nurse down a quiet hallway to room 208. The door was half open. The man was sitting upright in bed, a bandage over his forehead, and 4 in his hand, and a confused look in his eyes as he stared out the window. The nurse knocked softly. You have a visitor. He turned, and when his eyes met Claire's, something flickered in them. Not memory, but something deeper. Recognition of feeling. You're her? He asked, his voice rough but calm. The girl who helped me? Claire stepped inside slowly. Yes. My name is Claire. He smiled faintly. I don't remember mine. She took a few steps closer. How are you feeling? Physically? Like I fell down a mountain. Mentally? Like I woke up inside a movie I've never seen before. Claire smiled. Well, I guess you could say your story is just beginning. He chuckled softly. And you're part of it. Claire sat in the chair beside his bed. She didn't say much. She just sat there with him. Sometimes silence is better than words. After a while, he looked at her and said, Do I look rich to you? Claire blinked. Honestly, you do. He looked down at his arm, at the hospital gown, at the fancy watch they'd placed in a Ziploc bag beside his bed. I found that on your wrist, she explained. And your shoes, your shirt. Everything looked expensive. But you were hurt and bleeding. Alone. He nodded slowly. So, I was rich. But no one cared when I was lying on the ground. Claire's face fell. No one but you, he added softly. Claire shrugged. I didn't stop because of your clothes. I stopped because you were human. For a few seconds, he didn't say anything. Then he whispered, Can you call me something? Just for now. Claire thought for a second. How about Eli? He smiled. That works. Claire and Eli. Sounds like a story already. They both laughed quietly. Claire stood to leave. I should go. Let you rest. Will you come back? Eli asked quickly. Claire paused at the door, then smiled. Yes, I will. As she walked away, Eli sat back in bed, staring at the ceiling. He didn't know who he was, or why he had no ID, or who had left him on the street. But he knew this. The first person he saw when he opened his eyes was the one person who cared when no one else did. And that meant more than anything. Claire kept her promise. Every evening after work, she returned to the hospital to visit Eli. She brought warm pastries from the bakery, crossword puzzles, and sometimes books to help him pass the time. But mostly, she brought something he truly needed, kindness. Each day, Eli looked a little better. The bruises on his face began to fade. The bandage on his forehead grew smaller. But the questions in his mind only grew larger. Why did I have that expensive watch? Why didn't anyone come looking for me? Who would leave me on the road like that? Claire didn't have answers. But she listened. One afternoon, as rain tapped against the hospital windows, Eli stared at the ceiling and said, You know what's strange, Claire? Even though I lost my memory, I don't feel scared anymore. Not when you're around. Claire looked up from her chair and smiled. Maybe that's because, deep down, you trust me. I do, he said softly. Even though I don't remember anything, I know you're real. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Claire asked, Eli, if you had the chance to remember everything, would you take it? Even if the truth was painful. Eli thought for a long moment. Yes, I think I would. Because the truth, no matter how hard, is still better than an empty past. Claire nodded. That's brave. The next day, something strange happened. Claire arrived at the hospital like usual, But when she walked into room 208, the bed was empty. Panic filled her chest. She rushed to the nurse's station. "Where is Eli?" "The man in 208. The nurse looked up, confused. "He was transferred early this morning." "Transferred? To where?" "I'm sorry," the nurse said. "The paperwork said he was picked up by a family member. They brought documents, signatures, everything looked official." Claire's heart dropped. "But he never said he remembered anything," she whispered. "He said he had no family." The nurse checked the file. "I wish I could tell you more, but it was all approved. He's gone." Claire walked out of the hospital in a daze. Something felt off. Very off. She sat at the bus stop and pulled her hoodie tighter against the wind. Her heart was heavy, and her mind was full of worry. Why would someone take Eli away without telling her? Why hadn't he left a note or even said goodbye? Later that night, across the city, behind the tall iron gates of a quiet estate, Eli Matthews, his real name, stood in front of a mirror, fully dressed in a navy blue suit. He looked like himself again, but something inside him had changed. His assistant, Marcus, stepped forward. "Sir, the men who tried to attack you, they think you're dead. We staged it that way on purpose." Eli nodded. "They won't be after me for now. That gives us time." "But the girl," Marcus paused. "Claire Morgan. She has no idea who you are." "I know," Eli replied quietly. "Do you want us to send her money? A gift?" Eli shook his head slowly. "No, not yet." "Why not?" "Because I need to know who she really is. If she only helped me because she thought I was poor, or if her heart is truly different." Marcus tilted his head. "How do you plan to do that?" Eli turned toward the window, watching the city lights glow. "I'm going back," he said. Not as Eli Matthews, the billionaire, but as the man she first met, just a stranger on the street. Marcus raised an eyebrow. "You want to pretend again?" "No," Eli said. "This time, I want to see if she'll help me again, without anything to gain." He smiled faintly, because that kind of heart is rare. The sky over Willow Creek was gray and moody. Rain fell in slow, steady drops, turning sidewalks slick and softening the air with the scent of wet earth. It had been 4 days since Claire last saw Eli. Every day, she had walked past the hospital, hoping to catch a glimpse of him. She called once, but there was no new information. It was as if he had simply disappeared. Gone. Just like that. She missed his quiet smile. The way he listened. The way he made her feel like she mattered, even though he was the one in need. She thought she'd never see him again. But fate had other plans. That Thursday evening, as Claire stepped out of the bakery to toss the trash behind the shop, she nearly screamed. Someone was sitting on the wooden bench outside the back alley. Soaking wet. Hoodie pulled over his head. Shoes muddy. Hands trembling slightly. It was him. Eli. Claire gasped. "Oh my God. Eli." He looked up slowly, blinking from the rain. But there was no flicker of recognition. She stepped closer. "It's me, Claire." "I am sorry," he said hoarsely. "Do I know you?" Her heart sank. "You don't remember?" Eli shook his head. "They told me I was found on a road weeks ago. Said I woke up in the hospital. But I don't remember much after that. Just flashes. And this bakery. I felt drawn here." Claire stood frozen. He was pretending again. But she didn't know that. Her eyes filled with tears. "I thought you were gone. They said someone took you. I thought maybe something happened." "I'm sorry," Eli whispered. "I don't know who I am, but I haven't eaten in 2 days. I saw the warm lights here, and I hoped." Claire didn't hesitate. "Come inside." She let him in through the back kitchen, turned on the heater, and gave him a towel. Then she poured him hot coffee, added extra cream and sugar, just like he used to like it, and placed a plate of fresh cookies in front of him. He devoured them slowly, like he hadn't tasted real food in days. She brought him dry clothes from the bakery's lost and found box and laid out a small mattress and blanket in the storage room. "You can sleep here tonight," she said softly. "No one will bother you." Eli looked up at her. "Why are you doing this?" Claire paused. Because I remember what it feels like to be alone. I remember needing help and wishing someone would care. She gave a sad smile. You don't need to know me. You just need to rest. Eli watched her carefully. Every word, every action, none of it was fake. She didn't ask him where he came from. She didn't question why he had returned. She didn't even expect a thank you. She just helped. That night, as rain tapped softly against the bakery windows, Claire checked on him once more before leaving. He was already asleep, wrapped in the blanket like a child. She stood there for a moment, watching him quietly. Then she turned off the light. The next morning, Claire returned with fresh coffee and a warm sandwich. But when she opened the storage room door, he was gone. The blanket was folded neatly on the mattress. The borrowed clothes were stacked in a pile. And on the wooden crate beside the bed, there was a small envelope with her name on it. Her fingers trembled as she opened it. Inside was a handwritten note. You gave when you had little. You helped without asking questions. I remember everything now. You passed the test, Claire. The kind of heart you have is rare. I'll return when the time is right, and when I do, everything will change. Eli Matthews. Claire sat down, speechless. She didn't understand it yet, but the man she helped had not only found his memory, he had found something far more valuable. Her. Claire held the letter in her hands for a long time. She read it over and over again, but it still didn't feel real. Her heart raced. Her eyes were filled with quiet tears. He remembered. Eli remembered everything. And he had been pretending, not to lie, but to test her heart. To see if she would still be kind when there was nothing to gain. Now he was gone again. But this time he had left a promise. I'll return when the time is right, and when I do, everything will change. The days passed slowly. Claire went back to her routine, early mornings at the bakery, serving coffee, frosting cakes, sweeping the floor. But everything felt different now. A little heavier. A little brighter. She didn't tell anyone about Eli. It felt too personal. Like something the world wouldn't understand. One sunny afternoon, exactly 2 weeks after the letter, Claire was cleaning the bakery windows when a silver car pulled up outside. It wasn't like the others. This one was long and sleek, the kind she had only seen in movies. A man stepped out, tall, well-dressed in a light gray suit, with polished shoes and a calm, familiar walk. Claire turned around, and for a moment, her heart stopped. Eli. But not the tired, bruised man she once found on the street. This was Eli Matthews, clean-shaven, confident, and strong. He walked through the bakery door slowly, his eyes locked on hers. She stood frozen. You, she whispered. I'm sorry I left that way, he said softly. I needed time. Time to recover, time to remember, and time to be sure. Sure of what? He walked closer. That your kindness was real. That you didn't help me because of a name or a title. That you would have given the same care to anyone. Claire blinked back tears. But I didn't need a test, Eli. I just did what felt right. He nodded. And that's why I'm here. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small white envelope. He handed it to her gently. She opened it slowly and gasped. Inside were documents, ownership papers, deeds, permits. What is this? She asked, confused. It's yours, Eli said with a smile. This bakery. Paid in full. No more rent. No more stress. You own it now. It's called Claire's Place. Claire's lips parted. She was too shocked to speak. And that's not all, Eli continued. I've opened a bank account in your name. Enough money for your future. For whatever dream you want to chase. No strings attached. Her hands trembled. Eli, I don't know what to say. He stepped closer and gently held her hands. Then don't say anything yet. Just know this. I'm not here because I feel guilty. I'm here because I want to be. You changed my life when I had nothing. Now I want to walk beside you as I build mine again. Claire looked into his eyes. Are you saying? I'm saying I want to stay, Eli said. If you'll have me. She laughed, tears falling freely now. Of course I'll have you, Eli. I missed you. He pulled her into a warm embrace right there in the bakery, with the scent of cinnamon in the air and the sunshine pouring through the window. Outside, people walked by like it was just another day. But inside that little bakery, two souls who met by accident were now standing at the beginning of something beautiful. Not just a love story, but a true story about how kindness, when given freely, can return in ways you never expect. That brings us to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you do, kindly subscribe to my channel. Share this video to your friends and loved ones. You can also comment what you feel about the story. Your support and engagement encourage me to post more videos. Thanks for watching.